Okay, we're live on Facebook right now, so say hi to all your friends. We ready in the back? Okay, good evening, everybody. We good? Are we good, sir?
We're good.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Ernie Geigenmiller. I'm the owner of Camas magazine. I helped organize this event after the last few meetings we've had, and through all the readership questions and emails and text messages I get on a daily basis, we thought, you know what, we should do this debate. And so I have been very grateful to have the help of the Clark County Today group. We've got Chris, who will be the moderator, and Jake has been setting up back there, getting all the sound set up, getting the video set up, and we've got a live feed over here on my end, so it's a joint partnership. We don't have a dog in this race. We're just here to facilitate information and get the information out that you want to ask. So what's going to happen tonight? We're going to be going until 8 o'clock. I'm going to be your host. I'm playing bad cop. That's my job today. So a couple of ground rules. We're asking everybody to refrain from negative commentary. We want it to be civil. If anybody does any kind of an outburst, I will ask them to leave. I don't expect that to happen. We live in a great town. We have a lot of things going for us here. We should be grateful for what we have. And from what I'm hearing and from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of changes coming, and we're just here to talk about those things. So I'd like to introduce our guests tonight. Mayor Shannon, Turk, could you stand for a moment? Mayor Shannon, Turk has been in office for just about a year, right?
In November, 1 year.
Yeah, very close to a year. And she served on city council for 7 years prior to that, correct? So she's been working for the city for 8 years. Thank you, Shannon. And we will get to Shannon a little bit more tonight as well. And then Barry McDonnell. He's our first of 2 writing candidates we have in this election. And he will be introducing himself to the public tonight with some questions that we'll be having. And then Melissa Smith, regrettably could not be here. She is just recovering from neck surgery, and she is also a writing candidate. So again, we're just trying to get all the information out there. So tonight what's going to happen is Barry, because he won the coin toss just moments ago, he will have an opening statement. I'm going to go over here and be quiet. But what's going to happen is Chris is going to be our moderator, and he's going to ask questions and really kind of run the show over on that part of it. And each candidate will have a minute to respond to the question that Chris asked them. And then the other candidate will also have the chance to answer that same question. And then we're going to encourage some dialogue. And we're going to encourage some civil discussion about some serious topics. The questions that we put together are a combination of questions that you have been giving to both of our publications. And we also been asking people to submit their questions. So we have a lot of good questions here tonight, probably about 25. We're not going to get through all of them, but we've taken a lot of the components of those questions into the general questions so that we'll get through it. At the end of the debate between these 2 great candidates, what we're going to have tonight is a chance for you guys to ask questions directly. And so I'll be looking at the list you guys have given me, and if you're here in the room, I'm going to ask you to stand up and ask a question if you're comfortable doing that, and we'll have a discourse from that. So let's get started. Chris, we turn it to you.
All right. Well, just a huge turnout. I am so impressed with folks here in Camas getting involved in local politics. You know, all politics is local, they say, and it takes people like you showing up to events like this to have their voices heard, to ask questions, to hear from your elected representatives or potential elected representatives. So thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. Thank you to the Camas Fire Department for hosting this event. And thank you to Camas Magazine and Ernie for helping to set it up. Since Barry won the coin toss, we're going to give, I believe it's 2 minutes for opening statements, correct?
Correct.
So Barry, go ahead. You have 2 minutes to do your opening statement.
All right, thank you. So my name is Barry McDonnell, and I am an independent voter. I am not affiliated to any party. I have no government experience, and I have no political experience. For the last 19 years, I've been working in retail loss prevention, and that's basically protecting the assets of the company, being involved with the operations, managing the external theft and managing the internal theft. And for the last 17 of those years, I've been managing people and leading teams along the lines of loss prevention. And ironically, one of the things that I tell all my people when they first come on board is for them to be successful, they have to become the mayor of the store that they're at. And they have to gain that trust, they have to be curious, they have to ask questions, they have to inspire, they have to motivate. They have to empower people to take action, to take positive action. But I think most importantly as well, they have to be passionate about what they do. And without that, they're not going to be successful. And that's how I've been successful, and that's the way that I've led my teams, and that's the approach that I would take as your mayor. I think there's 3 areas that I would focus in on and kind of put my energies towards. One would be around the land, ensuring that we have strong regulations and policies in place that we're willing to stand up for, to protect the things that we value. When it comes to the people, I'm big in open communication, and that's where I see we have an opportunity within the city, and that's an area that I would like to help expand upon. Having town hall meetings where we can have some open dialogue, opening up our city meetings so that people will feel heard, and I think that's a very important part of having a healthy community. And then thirdly, honesty and being very transparent. And as an elected official, I would abide by the city code of ethics, and I would ask that all our elected officials would do the same. And I recognize that this is a last-minute campaign, and it hasn't even been 3 weeks since we put our name out there, and was willing to do this. But I want to assure you that I am fully committed. I understand that it is a huge commitment and an undertaking to take on. It will take away all my free time. It'll be 7 days a week of nonstop work, but I have the support of my wife, I have the support of my family, I have the support of my friends, and I've felt in the last few weeks the support of the community, and that's the only way that I would be successful, and that's the way that I would approach the job.
All right, thank you. Mayor Turk?
Thank you. Thank you to Camas Magazine, and thank you also to Clark County Today for putting on this forum. It was important for all of us to get together to talk about what the issues are, especially because until 3 weeks ago, I was running unopposed. I fully expected to be running against somebody when the May filing period opened. I was pleasantly surprised when I wasn't, but I am happy to be running in the race right now. I want to be mayor because I am the mayor. I have a plan. I know what I want to do. I've been practicing for this my whole life. I have a graduate degree in public administration. I have worked in mayor's offices. I have worked in senators' offices volunteering. I have volunteered in this community. You may have seen me coaching your kids' basketball games, running your Girl Scout troop, your kids' Girl Scout troop, volunteering in the classroom. I have been engaged in this community. I have learned about public administration and government. I know where funding sources are. I know the different things, all the boring things. All of these things are boring. I even compared to loss control, the government can be boring, but I love it. This is something that I want to do. I did not run. I didn't put my name in for appointment in November without assuming that I would run in May. I want to be the mayor. In less than a year that I have been the mayor, we have brought this, actually this meeting is because we brought an issue to the table that we've been talking about for 30 years. So we are taking action. There are 5 council members and the mayor position that were up for re-election this year. We could have posted. We could have status quo'd. We could have said, oh, let's just get through the election and then we'll figure out what's going on. But this council chose not to with my full support. And so there is a community center bond on the ballot. That's moving the conversation forward. There were also in the past year, there have been firefighter funding issues. We have a master plan that we have initiated that's going to be coming forward. We are so close to fulfilling the needs of the fire department. We are starting.
That's 2 minutes, and we'll stop you there. We're going to get to some of those issues.
Yes,
So.
okay.
All right, so as far as the general questions, we have a list of about a dozen or so questions. Here's how this is going to work. We're going to give you guys each 1 minute to respond. After, and having spent a lot of years in radio, 1 minute goes by fast. So we will try and give you an opportunity to wrap up when your minute is up. When that minute is up, for each of you, the other will have a brief opportunity to respond. This is a debate, unlike just a candidate for forum. We want to give you guys an opportunity to dialogue respectfully about some of these issues. So we will allow some of those back and forths to go on for a little bit, but if it goes too long, Ernie's going to give me the cutoff sign, and if need be, he'll be the bad guy, I promise me. So let's go ahead and start with Mayor Turk with question number 1. What part of your work experience qualifies you to be mayor, and why should Camas voters elect you?
I have been working for the City of Vancouver and for local government since 1995 when I received my master's degree. That is state budgeting, that is municipal budgeting at the city level as well as at the county level. I understand all aspects of what a city does, from the getting clean water into your house, to taking that dirty water away, to making sure that your roads are clear and free of potholes, to making sure that our houses are planned where they should be. I understand all of those aspects as well as how to fund those aspects.
If you could ask the question, sir, one more time.
Yes. So what part of your work experience qualifies you to be mayor, and why should Camas voters elect you?
Yeah, I think the ability to communicate, the ability to bring people together to solve solutions. I do not understand a lot of how that operates, but I do understand that we do have people that are in government that do that. We have our different departments, we have our different, we have a city admin that really oversees a lot of this as well. And as far as being able to motivate them, understand how I can support them, and really be a connection between the citizens and the city government, I think that's something that I can bring to the table, and I think that's something that we need.
My vote would be that in Camas, we have a strong mayor form of government. So the mayor is the executive. So when it comes down to it, we do have a lot of great staff, and I rely on that staff. They are awesome. And the city administrator does handle day-to-day decisions, but there are often times when I have to step in and make a decision for the betterment of the community. And I am able to do that based upon my past experience.
And just to add that I would be able to do that as well, understanding what the community wants and acting on their behalf as far as what the decision should be. And again, I have no problem making decisions also.
All right. We're going to move on. And this basically, I would call this question 1B, essentially, but we'll start with you, Ken McDonnell. What city Camas volunteer committees have you served on, I think?
I haven't served on any city, any committees as far as volunteers for the city.
When I moved here in 2002, I immediately met with the city administrator and I was appointed to the Board of Adjustment. And that is a very small committee that basically hears when your water bills are too high or there are minor variances before they go to the planning committee. Not a lot of action. I actually applied for the planning commission and I was denied because I thought that that's where the action would be. I moved from there onto the council in 2011 and then was appointed to the mayor just last year.
I'm assuming there's not going to be a rebuttal on that. All right. And I want to say that I know that we've got as many seats in here as we can to the folks in the back. I'm standing the whole time too, so if that makes you feel any better. Now we're going to move on to...
Here, watch one more chair if you guys want one.
You want to sit up here in the
Sit in the corner.
So I'm going to move on to question number 3, and I think this is, kind of moves us into the territory that I think a lot of folks are here for tonight. And we're going to start with, I believe, Mayor Turk on this one. I should be writing these down. So let's get into it. What are the pros and cons of Proposition 2 in your view? And in your view, was it rolled out too quickly?
There are absolutely pros and cons to the issue. The pros are that this is a proposition that is a compilation of many of the issues that we have heard over the past 3 decades from citizens. Maybe not from you specifically, but we are a community of 25,000 people, and so we have heard it at some point. If we haven't heard it, it's not in this bond. There's a lot of support for bringing a pool to us. There's a lot of support for renovating fields. A con to that is, did our eyes get too big for our plate possibly and we put too much together into one thing? Maybe. But the deal is that we don't do this very often. The last bond we did was 20 years ago for the library. We know that these are the needs that are out there for the community, and we have one shot to get it, and it is your choice. Is this something that you're willing to pay for, that you want, then vote yes. If it is not something that you're willing to pay for, then vote no. I support that this question is given to you. This is a very important decision that the community has to make. I'm happy that the council put it out to a vote.
Candidate McDonnell.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Proposition 2, and I feel like it was rushed. And I feel like it was rushed because I feel like it was the best chance for the pass this year versus next year when we were going up against the school bond again. I don't feel like that we took the right time in order to do it. I don't, maybe we clarify, but getting a committee together with our planning department, getting the finance department, really assessing what the situation is, getting all their feedback, then bringing it to the citizens and getting their input as well. So that we have a plan that everyone believes in and everyone is a part of. And then having all the information as far as when you're giving it to the people, I think it's important that we give all the information as well. And there was some frustration from my standpoint in how long it took to get the operational cost of the information and how that was released. Because that's a very important part of making the decision. And I also felt that the way that was presented was being sold. I would have loved to have some debates where we could have had pros and cons and we could have, as citizens, really understood it. But I felt that the way it was presented was very much just pushing down the information versus bringing up the information from the citizens.
I completely understand that. I know that it felt rushed. You are absolutely right in your statement that saying that we had the best chance of passing this bond now before the school bond comes, which is exactly why we had to get it onto the ballot by August 5th. And we didn't make the decision to go forward until April. And so it did feel rushed. Ideally, I wanted to have citizens get together, talk about what are the things that you want to have ahead of time, so that we could make that decision. And if I was able to go back in time and start this process in January or February, I would. But unfortunately, this is where we are now. We did the best that we could. I am confident that this is a great proposal. The citizens will have a chance to be involved. When and if this bond passes, then the citizens will have a chance. We presented a concept. Citizens will be involved in the programming, and the design, and the location. All of those things still have to be decided. Just like a school bond, when we go out and we say, hey, we need $30 million to build a school, or whatever amount, and we need it in this area. We don't necessarily identify exactly which parcel it's going to be on. We don't identify how many fourth grade teachers are going to be in that school. We provide a concept and we ask for your support. You are right though. It was rushed, but it had a 30-year build up to get to that point.
And I totally get there's a total history there as well with it. I would just say that if we're pushing for something, we should want the voters to vote for it because it's the right bond versus it's the right time. And I think that's the difference that I was pointing out.
I will also say we did have open houses earlier on. And people did attend, and we appreciate the attendance that people had at those open houses. People became more engaged after July 15th when the actual bond amount was listed. I wish I had been able to give more time to both react to the large amount and then understand why it's a large amount. But until then, I will just be providing as much information I can to get people to understand what's included in this bond.
Let me ask a follow-up question then. If Proposition 2, and we'll start with you, candidate McDonnell, if Proposition 2 were to fail, if voters were to vote it down, in your mind, what should follow up? Because I think there's clear support in the community for something.
I'm for a pool myself, but again, I think we have to go through the correct process in order to get there. I think that when we do skip through the processes or we do anything other than getting feedback from the people, we're kind of wasting our time to a certain extent. So I think the first thing I would do is work with the city planning department, work with the finance department, and really kind of assess what makes sense for our city, what makes sense to get their perspectives. And I'd also have citizens as part of that as well, especially citizens that have an expertise maybe in these kind of areas. And then I think, again, bring it to the people, but in a format that is more open conversation and dialogue, as opposed to, I think, how it felt the way this one was rolled out. And I think then we'll end up with something that makes sense, that financially makes sense, and makes sense for the city of Camas. And then I don't think there will be everyone has been a part of the process, everyone was involved with it, it'll make sense to go forward with this.
If this bond does not pass, then we will just reassess. What were the parts? Was it because the amount was too much? Was it because you didn't want this? We will reassess and we will move forward, because that's what we do. We move forward. We have a plan and we keep going. I got stuck on that plan and now I've lost it. Can you repeat the question for me?
The question is, if Proposition 2 were to fail, in your mind, what should happen next? What should the next steps be for the city? Because I think people support having something.
They do support having something. The thing will be to figure out what it is. There are 25,000 people, and I doubt that all of you think the same thing or want the same thing. We put forth a bond measure that I fully support because it includes everybody's it includes a conversation that I've heard from everybody. I will definitely clarify that city staff has been intimately involved in these discussions, and our finance staff, our planning staff. What we were missing was a lot more community engagement in the beginning. And we can always increase community engagement, and I will continue to learn. Although I have studied, although I have great theory on how to be a manager, there's always room for improvement, and I've learned lots of things as we rolled out this bond. But rolling out this bond is an awesome thing. All of the participation that you are having, all of the discussions, even if personally it might feel a little painful, I think, if you go on social media. Really, this is a great discussion to have. This is exciting. We are to a point where 30 years of conversation are coming to a head. That's what we should be embracing. Is this the right thing? Maybe not. Then we'll pivot and we'll come up with another plan, but at least we're talking about it instead of allowing a 64-year-old pool that had exceeded its life by at least 24 years fail.
Barry, did you have a rebuttal on that?
There was a lot in there, I guess. Again, in reference to the pool, I think in reference to the bond, it's not so much that the frustration is that, I think the frustration is the way that it's being communicated. And I think the frustration is that we haven't felt, or at least I haven't felt in my neighbors and the people that I talk to, that there has been a voice and that people are listening to what is actually happening. And I think that when I look at this bond and the way that it was presented and the communication that is so very important, and I totally agree with you that as well. This is very healthy to have these conversations, but I don't feel that we have been having these conversations in any kind of real way. I feel like, again, when it comes to the way that we have our meetings around this pool, it was information that was kind of given, not necessarily taken. When it came to the State of the Union and we asked questions about the pool, there wasn't a lot of information that's really been given, and I think it's very important to make a decision that is this big. I mean, it's a big impact that this is going to have. This is a very key location that there could be many big consequences that go along with it, and huge expenses from a financial standpoint for the city that I don't feel like that we've really considered, and that we're respecting that the citizens have concerns about that. And I think that's the fundamental problem I see is the way that we communicate and the way that we get information and deliver the information to people. And that's what I would like to adjust, and I think that's a change that I can bring.
You want to find a chance for you to...
No.
All right.
I'm so
Hey, Chris.
Oh, I got a little in-house sounds.
Okay. We're going to go back to that topic with all these reader questions that tie into that near the end of the debate. Okay.
Yeah, I assumed we were done with it, yeah. We'll move on to I think what you referred to as the boring stuff a little bit, but I'll start with you on this one, Mayor Turk. How does Camas fund its operations, and in your view, how much money does Camas need to operate each year?
We fund our operations primarily. I'm assuming that we are referring to the general fund. So I am not going to be talking about our water fund, our stormwater fund, our wastewater fund, our garbage fund. All of those things pay for themselves. You pay for those in your rates. The thing that we don't have, and we don't have any discretion, it has to, if we collect water rates from you, we have to put it back into the water system. The places where we do have discretion are in the general fund. And the general fund is funded primarily by the property tax. And there's a sales tax component to it as well. But we don't get a lot of sales tax because we don't have a lot of commercial retail business. It's changed a little bit because we are able to collect sales tax on internet sales, so that is helping us. We also get sales tax when we build big projects. So when they build a school or something, we reap the benefits of the sales tax. How much, in my opinion, do we need in order to operate? The amount that we need in order to operate is the amount that the citizens feel that we need, the level of service that they're willing to provide. For example, in Portland, they say that you need, can't remember, I believe it's been a while since I've been there, but it was like 4.3 officers per thousand. And that's their goal, and they're going to fund 4.3 officers per thousand. In Camas, we are not even close to 4.3 officers per thousand, but sometimes people come and say, oh, we need to fund 4.3 officers per thousand. That's the measurement, that's the metric that we need to get to. But really what it is how many officers do you need to feel safe in your community? And that's the amount that we need to fund. How many firefighters do you need to feel like you're protected in your community? That's the amount that I need to fund. How clean do you want your parks to be? How many potholes do you want in your streets? I'm assuming none. Those are the things that we need to make sure that we have enough money to fund.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap you up there. Barry?
Yes. So it's been humbling the last 3 weeks as I really dig into how much I have to learn and try and understand how all of these processes work. But I think part of that is as I learn, I want to share that with you as well and really be able to answer these questions. We have an amazing finance department. The website is tremendous in breaking down how we operate. I don't know how much we would need, but I do think that it's when I look at, say, this pool bond, it's going to be the same amount of money that we're going to be paying as we do for our entire fire department, which is a big chunk. And again, I think it's important that we understand exactly what we do have to fund, what are the key measurements around that before we start adding additional expenses and burdens to the community.
Rebuttal?
My rebuttal would be if we had put the community center project into our existing resources, if we were making the decision to fund the community center and not police or not fire or not our streets, absolutely we should definitely be having this conversation. But this is additional amount. And yes, it is an additional amount to you, and we can talk about why I think that's important, I'm assuming in a few questions. But this is added. It won't detract from anything that we already have. If this is something that you want, are you willing to pay for it?
And it's a big commitment that we're committing to, with a lot of liabilities that go along with that as well, and potentially more financial risk that goes along with that. And I would just say that money's the money. Whatever money I'm paying is still where it's going. I mean, I think that we play a lot of games as far as that it comes from this bond, or it's from this tax, or it's from that tax, but I think as a whole, we just have to be financially responsible in how we manage it.
All right, we'll move on to the next question. We're going to stick with some of the boring stuff. We're going to start with candidate McDonnell. Can you explain the biennial budget process and where we are currently on that?
On the biannual budget process,
The biennial budget.
I'm not going to be able to explain the biannual budget or where we stand in, honestly.
Gotcha.
So we are midway through the biennial budget process. Our current budget was adopted for 2019, 2020. Our prioritization of government services that we're going through the process right now, will actually help to identify the services that we need to put into the 21-22 budget. It's amazing that we're already into the 20s. So the process that we use, the mayor recommends the budget. This is the mayor's budget. This is the mayor's job to put this budget together. It then should reflect the values of the community, and the things that I will hope to reflect are economic development. I already know that the area to the north of the lake is where we need to start developing jobs, and we need to bring those jobs in order to spread the taxes out, in order for us not to have to collect more taxes from you. So my budget will include a plan for economic development. It will include a plan for another continuation of this prioritization of services that council is going to help with. After I present my budget, then the city council approves it. They can change it, they can say no to it, they can add to it, they can do what they want. They adopt the budget. I then execute the budget. So it is a teamwork. You have to work closely with your council in order to get things done within the city.
Shannon, McDonnell, did you have any response? Okay. We're going to move on a little bit here to talking about growth in Camas, because I know that's another topic that folks are very interested in. Just drive around town a little bit and you'll see plenty of it. We're going to go ahead and start with Mayor Turk, right. Bring the chain up. Let's talk about the Growth Management Act, and before your eyes glaze over, it is important. How do you navigate the state's Growth Management Act while trying to keep the look and feel of Camas?
Okay, so it'll be difficult to explain the Growth Management Act and tell you how I would respond
And you have
to
1
that.
minute.
In 1 minute, yes. But the Growth Management Act is a state mandated allocation of where we are supposed to be as far as population and as far as jobs. Not every county in the state is subject to the GMA, is what we call it, but Clark County is one of them. We have a population allocation of 35,098 by 2035. So that means we have to bring in that many residences. We will have a population of that much. There is basically the urban growth boundary, which right now extends north of the lake, goes from our boundaries in the west and then to the east. That is our sandbox. We can determine what we want to do within that sandbox. If we want to keep the area north of the lake completely green and not develop it, then we can. But if we choose to do that, then we need to increase the density south of the lake, where we are. We need to have higher apartment complex buildings. We need to have closer together buildings, because regardless of where we decide to put things in our sandbox, we have to meet 35,098 residents by 2035.
Shannon, McDonnell.
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time reviewing the Growth Management Act and planning and speaking with people in the planning department and taking a look at some of the videos that go on, and it's huge. There's a lot that goes along with it. But as Mayor Turk said, it's a tool as well to kind of help us understand how we're going to grow and how we're going to kind of expand, and we have to be a part of it based on population and other criteria. And with the North Shore development that's going on, that was 2010 that we rezoned that area, and now we're looking at how we're going to grow that, how we're going to do that. So the surveys that we got is from the city, trying to understand how we can, what are important to us, and it just shows what the zonings are. I know there's going to be a couple of meetings coming up this month with the planning department, and I encourage everyone to be a part of that. And to really educate yourself as well as to understand how it kind of operates. But certainly it's something that I'm trying to better understand as well, and figure out how we can maintain that, and really understanding what is important to the citizens. And I think that's the questions that starts first, is what is important to us, what is it that we want to grow, what is it that we want to keep, and then figuring out how we can make that happen.
Councilor Bell?
I have no rebuttal to that. That was perfect. Thank you for encouraging people to come to meetings, and that is exactly what we want. We want to have your input so that we know what we are going to put together in the master plan for that area north of the lake.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about that, because that's the next question, and we'll start with you, Shannon. McDonnell, what would your plan be for the North Shore area? How would you approach that?
Again, this is where I'm stepping into realizing how much I don't know, And when I look at the North Shore, nothing has been developed at this point. We're just trying to get some baseline ideas as far as how we want to develop and grow it. Again, I think part of it is making sure that we communicate to the people what the options are and what our choices are. And I think that sometimes there can be confusion as far as that goes. What is it that we can do? What is it that we can't do? And what are the options even with what we can't do? But I think it starts with figuring out what we want first, and then figuring out how we can make that happen within the rules. And if we need to step out, we need to step out. But I think it's important that we decide as citizens what's important to us and value that.
Thank you. I will just clarify one thing. The North Shore is not completely a blank slate, because it has legacy lands that have been purchased by the city. That North Shore area of Lacamas Lake The city has been buying up over the last year to 2 years, using grant money, using whatever money we can put together in order to purchase land before it is developed, because we thought it was very important in order to maintain that view backdrop. So it is not completely a blank slate. When we are working on master planning in that North Shore area, it will not include those legacy lands. You are absolutely right. We need to know what the citizens want. I hear that we want it green, but do we actually want to increase densities over here? I do not hear that very often. Personally, my view for the North Shore area is that this area, Grass Valley area, back in the 80s was our big economic development hub. We diversified our economy from the mill. We brought in jobs, family wage jobs. We have one of the highest median wages in the region. And because of that, we're able to put it into our schools. We have a great school system. We are running out of land over there. It doesn't seem like it, but there's a lot of wetlands. There's a lot of areas that we can't build upon. I see the area north of the lake as an economic development place. We need to develop the infrastructure. We need to get services out there so that we can bring those businesses in. We've actually lost 2 large businesses because we were not prepared for it. It is my goal, and what I hope to accomplish by the end of 2020 is we have a plan we know going forward so we do not lose that 3rd business. If we had that 3rd business, I probably wouldn't be, or if we had one of those 2 businesses that was already here, I probably would not be asking you for this bond because we would have been set up. We've been living off wafer tech for years. We do not have the taxes that other jurisdictions have because we have these businesses. We need to continue to grow those jobs. And personally, North Shore is where I would do that.
And I would just commend you guys for purchasing that property and making that important for the plan as well.
All right. Let's talk about, Turk, we'll start with you. What is your 30-year vision for Camas, and how would you implement it?
My 30-year vision is going to come in chunks because there are certain things that we can do. I put 3 things together for the year. That's what I hope to accomplish. But 30 years from now, regardless of what we look like, I hope that we're one community. I hope that we have a community where we have services north of the lake, but we don't forget about our downtown. So we create interconnectivity between the 2 areas. I hope that our kids are comfortable throughout the city, and they're comfortable swimming in our lakes, and they have plenty of parks to play in. I hope our roads are not degraded to the point where there are potholes everywhere. But basically, I just hope for a community where we can have discussions like this and disagree and still come out stronger in the end.
I suspect by then we're going to need a bigger room.
We might need a bigger room.
We need a bigger room.
Yeah.
And then
I don't necessarily have a 30-year vision, I have a 4-year vision, and I think that there's some fundamental things that I would like to change that I think will give us a clear vision as citizens what that 30 years will look like. And again, it's around changing some of our policies and procedures, or putting together tighter controls around protecting our resources when it comes to trees, when it comes to our wildlife. But fundamentally, I think changing the way that we communicate is going to be the biggest thing that I think that will allow us to really have a vision as a community, and changing the way that we format our meetings, the way that we communicate, setting up debates, setting up roundtable conversations, setting up town hall meetings, and making sure that everyone has a voice and understands clearly what that vision is and why we're going there, how we're getting there, and why it's important.
Thank you. I would just say, and one of my chunks this year was to increase communication. And so not only did we have the State of the Community address, we also, each of the counselors, there are 3 different wards, each of the counselors held 2 separate ward meetings. 2 ward meetings are coming up in November. This is something that was done many years ago and then kind of forgotten because people didn't show up. We brought them back because we wanted to have that engagement, and it has been key. We had one 2 weeks ago, October 7th, right here in this building, and 20 people showed up. And it was a great conversation, but we are trying to engage. We have found that sending out mailers is the best way to get you to come to things. We have also found that open houses may not be the best forum to hear open communication. It does work in many different things, and it has worked in the past. When we talked about Brady Road improvements that are going on right now that have the open house to determine what that's going to look like and people can ask questions, open house was perfect. You could come as you wanted, you got the information, you asked your question, you left. It worked actually well for the very first community center meeting as well. People came, got the information, and they left. Didn't work as well as the second meeting. We'll figure out a way to do it better. We're always learning. But I am not saying that I am proud of the efforts that we have made to communicate. We have done a fantastic job. This council hears you. I have known that for the past month, 2 months, counselors go out in the evenings. They're not meetings. They're going out. They're hanging out at their neighbors' houses. They're talking to people. We are always available. You are always welcome to come by my office. I would be happy to take your appointment and talk to you. Not you, Dave.
I'll take your appointment, Dave. But the board meetings, I think that was great. I think that's the kind of stuff that we need. Again, I feel like I think there's a frustration that we haven't been heard. And I think that even when it comes to those meetings, it doesn't feel like the information is coming up. It feels like it's coming down. And I think that we have to regain the trust again. And I think we have to inspire people. I will say with the city council meetings, when we went through the pool situation, we had 2 city council members that came over to our house, and it really meant a lot to them that they did care. Again, the message was telling us this is what has to happen versus listening and then trying to figure out and communicating that. It just felt like this is what we were told, there is nothing. And again, it doesn't feel like we're being represented at that point. So I think those are great things to do, and I think that's more the direction that we need to go. But I think we also have to be accountable to people as well and stand there and answer questions directly in a public forum, because I think that's very important. And I think this is awesome that we're doing this today. I think it's a big deal.
It is. I would just, with all due respect, just because a question, the answer isn't liked, doesn't mean the question isn't being answered. So I want to make sure we feel that we are answering questions. I understand the frustration. I also understand that you don't feel heard, but I know that we're listening. I know that we're taking things into account.
What do you think you could do differently then so that we wouldn't feel that? Or is there anything that you look at and you say, okay, I can see where you're coming from with that, and this is something that we need to kind of improve on?
Well, yes, the last open house meeting, we would make it more into a town hall meeting for the bond. But here's the deal: by the time it got to that open house, people were coming up and telling me that these are all the reasons you're wrong. These are all the reasons that this is stupid. But really, by this point, the choice is: if you don't like it, don't vote for it. If you do like it, do vote for it. If you have something constructive to say, and there are very constructive things out there that, like location. This location doesn't work. I'm concerned about the traffic here. I'm concerned, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Those are all constructive. What happened at the town hall meeting is a lot of people just telling me why I should be voted out of office, and they can't believe that I put it onto the ballot.
And that's, again, we have to be respectful, we have to be appropriate. I think those are definitely there. But I also say that fundamentally, by not giving that information out, by doing the correct process and giving the information out initially, we wouldn't have to deal with the consequences with that. And I think that's what's important. That I understand we want to push things, we want to get things through, but we also have to make sure that we're respecting the people as well, and then we're giving them all the information. Because if not, that again is going to generate frustration. And if we don't have the format to discuss it as a community, it does go online and it does go into places, and it does start to divide. And I think it's important that we, no matter what, as you said, we have to move forward and we have to figure this out together.
Given the conversation that's going on here, I'm going to move on to, I'm going to switch questions here, Ernie. And I'm going to move on to one other question, and I think it'll facilitate some of this conversation continuing, but so that we can get through the list. And I'll start with you, Ken, at McDonnell. What concerns you most about the direction of Camas right now?
Again, I think it's just around the communication. I think that's what fundamentally the problem is. I don't feel like that the citizens and the elected officials are on the same page when it kind of comes to these things. And I think this bond is an example of that. And again, I love Camas. I think it's frustrating to see people getting frustrated or feeling like they don't have a voice or being heard. And I think that's something that if we can fix that and if we can identify where the key issues are around that, we can move forward. And that is the most concerning thing. I mean, to me, not being heard is the most frustrating thing.
I would say that I understand that. We've implemented the ward meetings, which I think are essentially the town hall meetings that you're referring to. We are trying to make additional efforts to communicate. We can always communicate better. But what I will say is that 81% of the citizens of Camas are greatly satisfied or satisfied with the services they've received. And this is a survey.
Mayor Turk, let me just interrupt you. You're rebuttaling before you're answering the question. What concerns you most about the direction of Camas?
I was rebuttaling before.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. What concerns me most about the direction of Camas, actually it's communication as well. And it's not and it's a different form of communication because I think I'm on the opposite end. I am the communication that I am completely off social media. I have someone that holds the information for all of the constructive things for me so that I know exactly what is going on. And I can address those things because we are listening, we are compiling lists, but there are a lot of mean-spirited things that are being said, and that is not the Camas that we are, and that frustrates me. It is that the distrust. In my opinion, you all have my trust until you do something to lose it. How did I lose yours so quickly? I haven't done anything. All I've done is support a council putting a ballot measure on the ballot, a bond measure on the ballot, sorry, and ending a discussion that we've had for 30 years. I want us, so it is the communication, and I've learned we can do things differently, but I hope that everyone else can learn that you don't have to be mean, because even though I'm off social media, my children aren't. They're reading what you say about me, and that's unfortunate.
Just to jump in there as well, I'm not a social media person myself. I just got into Nextdoor, and it is overwhelming. I mean, it's overwhelming, and same with Facebook, and it's you know, I get lots of communication, and people, you know, approach different ways. But again, I think that the way that we can deal with it is out in the public and in these kind of forums, and then it doesn't have to go there. I think that it felt like that was the place that people felt that they could have a conversation, because we want to have a conversation as a community, and that's the only place that we can kind of have it. So I think by being more transparent as far as how we answer the questions, or you know, again, we go to we play different. I mean, I think the town hall meetings or things like that are important, but I think it's important to hear from the mayor as well and be able to answer the questions and to be strong around the questions. And again, I appreciate you doing that today.
And I would just say, I am available. Your council is available. You might not have liked the format of the meeting, but I still stood there and answered every single one of your questions. The council members still stood there and answered every single one of your questions. We're not inaccessible. You can make appointments with us. You can call us on the phone. Some of you in here are my neighbors. You can stop by my house. We're not... I forgot the point of my rebuttal on that, but basically, but instead people are choosing, instead of, you're saying that that's the only form that people felt they were able to communicate. I'm offering 6 or 7 other options, and they're choosing.
I guess in that situation as well, and being a part of that meeting, it felt like it was being diffused. That there was a lot of people there who were passionate, and something needed to kind of bubble up. And I understand that we have to manage the situation. I understand that there was someone that stood up and was upset. But I think, regardless, we still have to stand before and answer it in the public setting in front of everyone. And if we don't, that's where it builds up. That's where that frustration kind of builds up, and that's just something that I would point out as something that I would see. I think it would feel totally different if we took more of that approach.
Okay.
Before I move on to the next question, can someone Google whether rebuttaling is actually a word? All right, let's move on to a slightly different topic. I'm sure we're going to be coming back to some of this when we get to reader questions, but
Lots of them on Facebook.
I believe we're starting with Mayor Turk here. how will you work with the Port of Camas Washougal and with Washougal to attract living wage jobs?
The Port of Camas Washougal is our economic development engine in our region. That is their mission. It is to promote and provide jobs in our region. So we don't have a lot of, the port doesn't necessarily have a lot of presence in Camas right now. We've been able to attract businesses and bring things in without port investment, and they've been able to focus on their waterfront. But I meet with them regularly, and we talk about economic development issues through the Camas Washougal Economic Development Agency. And when there are opportunities in the future, Washougal is also part of that Camas Washougal Economic Development Agency. We recognize that we are all part of one region, and jobs that are good for us help Washougal and vice versa. There is a great company, the one that we lost, that will be announcing itself very soon in our region. Unfortunately, not Camas or Washougal, but we will see the benefits from that. We will continue to work with our partner agencies in the port and in Washougal in order to develop economic development opportunities in Camas.
Kennedy McDonnell?
I think it's about developing relationships, and from my standpoint, it would be getting to know everyone at the port, getting to know the people at Washougal, and connecting the dots. And what I've discovered in the last 3 weeks as well is that I've been talking to so many smart Camas people that have so much information, so many great ideas, and bringing those people together and matching the right people up so that we can start to figure some of these things out. But ultimately, it's about developing relationships and starting there.
Got a problem with that?
I don't have a problem with that. We have strong relationships with the port. They come to our state of the community and they tell us what's going on.
All right, and I think this is the final question on my list, so after this we will turn it over to Ernie. Well, I have one more. This is the final question. And we'll start with Kennedy McDonnell. And you had mentioned this a little bit, Mayor Turk, but I'm curious to hear you guys talk about this a little bit more. How does Camas prioritize street repair projects?
Everett Street first. Again, I think that's where I have to, I don't know. I don't know how we would do that, but I think that we would need a kind of a process. I don't even know how we do that process now, but I know that there are concerns out there. And I think that whatever that process would be, it would be clearly explained to the citizens, and that's what I can communicate. I can find the smart people that can tell us how to do it, and then they can tell you guys how it's been approached.
I would agree with Everett, except for it's not ours. So it's a state route, so we can't do that one. But we can, this actually is a question that scares me, because all of our development that happened, most of our development, I know that it feels like it is happening right now because that's what we're seeing. But actually most of the development occurred between 2000 and 2010. That's when I moved here. I would guess that many of you moved here as well because Camas grew by over 6,000 citizens. Most of those citizens moved on that hill, to the west of that hill and a little bit to the north of that hill. And those streets were all put in at the exact same time. They were paid for by the developers as part of their conditions of being able to develop there. And now that money is done, and I walked those streets and I thought, oh, it's no big deal. But I walked it recently with a couple of neighbors, and I'm like, oh, this is getting really alligator. This is getting bad. We already have our pavement management plan out the next couple of years. The neighborhood streets on Prim Hill are not it. I can tell you what it is right now. It's actually one next to Crown Park, to the side with the stop signs that I can't remember the number of. And then the one that is that goes to Doc Harris Stadium. Those are the two streets that are planned to be paved next year. But that's it. That's all we've got. We don't have a lot of pavement money. And so when are we going to get to this multitude of roads that are up here on this hill, and how are we going to fund that? That is actually, aside from economic development in that North Shore area, that is one of the biggest issues that I hope to tackle in the next year. What are we going to do? I don't have the answer for that right now. We prioritize roads, though, based upon their condition. Are we able to save them? If we're able to save them and put a slurry seal over the top, then we save them as long as they can. If they're so far gone, and you guys know which roads are so far gone, sometimes we just have to let them fail, because the cost of going down, grinding, milling it all out, and then repaving it, that's our entire budget for like a 2-block span. We've got to figure out different ways to do it, and one of the ways is on the ballot. So we did not pursue it. Camas does not have a transportation benefit district, and it's a good thing, because if we did, it could potentially, that funding source could potentially be going away. So assuming that that goes away, which I think we all are kind of assuming that that goes away, we need to find other ways to fund our transportation issues.
Chance for rebuttal. All right, so that does it with the pre-formatted list of questions. Ernie, I'm going to have you stand up here, since the cameras are recording this microphone.
All right.
We'll turn it over to you.
You mind opening that back door? There's some cool air in here. It's kind of warm. Does that work for everybody? Is it too cold? Okay.
Not even been an hour there.
This is a good experience. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're learning stuff. So I'm going to pick people at random. I've got 25 questions. The questions they came from readers via the website, text message, personal text message, email, and then we've got messages from you guys tonight, and then we've been getting stuff online. I'm getting private. Is that still going there, Tommy? Okay, good. All right, so is Aaron Lang in the room? Would you like to stand up, sir, and ask your question? Your question goes to either Mayor Turk or to Barry. Would you like to come up here and...
I said if you want me to.
Yeah, come on up.
Join the fun.
Yeah,
Join the fun.
always fun. My question was related to, if this bond passes, how do you facilitate the future of the 20 years? You mentioned that we haven't had anything previous to that in terms of additional bond, but as you said, we're making a 30,000 jump in terms of population.
Mm-hmm.
How many more times will taxpayers see measures to facilitate more taxes as those implement the development, the streets, schools? Those are all going to be expanding. And so, from my perspective, $700 a year is a big jump. Are we overpricing our middle class and lower incomes out of Camas by doing this?
Okay, good. Okay, good. You guys have the applause.
Gotta be fair.
Exactly. All right. And so, Ernie, did you remember that question? Okay.
Right here. What are
Thank you.
Okay. Basically, what are the possibilities that if this passes for $78 million, that you will ask next year and the next 20 years for additional bonds for expansions, unexpected costs, things like that?
Additional bonds,
Yeah.
Additional bonds.
Like, is this going to cost, basically, will this cost more money in the form of more bonds?
Well, putting this bond out has been a lot of fun. However, it is not something that I hope to do ever again in my life. I don't know what future councils will do. I do not know what future needs will be. But I can't tell you exactly what the schools are going to do, because the school bonds are separate than what we fund. But I do know that we fund essential services in Camas. We fund them well right now. And I don't know that there are too many other additional services that we need. We have our library, we would have our recreation center. It would be up to the community, and based upon experience, maybe 30 years worth of community engagement before we get to where that bond is on the ballot. I know that it's a big ask. I get that it's a big ask. I've had people come up to me and say, I'm going to pay $16,000 over the course of this bond in order to fund your community center. I'm like, yes, you are. That is true, and that is a big ask. But what you will also get, I don't focus on the cost, and I know that may be bad, but there are so many, because it's a cost that I'm going to have to pay too, and there are many times that I don't focus on the cost of the water heater going out. I focus more on, great, I'm gonna have water and hot water again. So I'm focusing on the good things. Your appraised value, your assessed value is going to increase because we've increased livability in our city with the community center. We are going to bring employers into our community because we've increased livability and they want to have their businesses come to where their families want to be. And it's going to then spread the taxes out among everybody and it won't feel quite so painful. And you will get this great community center to use as well.
Senator McDonnell, would you like to say anything?
I mean, again, from the bond, from a financial standpoint, this doesn't make sense to me, and it's not something that I would be pushing for. And again, I would love not to think about money, but I think it is an important part of what we should be considering anytime we're making decisions, especially on behalf of the citizens.
Okay. Richard McMinn, are you in the room? Would you like to step up and ask a question? Richard McMinn? He's not here. Well, his question is one that is asked by several people, both online and all the categories. When did the council vote on Proposition 2 to go to a public bond? And was it unanimous? Answer, it was. So the big question here is when was it voted upon? And then is there a cost-benefit analysis on the pool in the community center?
It was, the city council voted on the bond on July 15th and what was included in the bond. It was unanimous. It was, we had built in the possibility of additional days. If we had had to have additional meetings to talk about what was included in the bond, we had built that in. The council was able to reach their conclusion on July 15th.
Okay.
The second part of it?
Cost-benefit analysis.
Oh, cost benefit?
I think I can, this is a generic question I hear from a lot of people, is did we put the cart in front of the horse on this with the cost-benefit analysis on an aquatic center / community center? I think that question is kind of a hybrid of a lot of questions that's getting asked a lot.
Can you define what is the cost benefit analysis for me? What are people asking for in that cost benefit analysis? Because I answer it, but it doesn't seem to get the question. So can you help me understand?
Yeah.
Is it simply
Lance,
revenues,
you
how
wanna
much
answer?
of a subsidy it is? Is it something different?
Lance Buffy, you want to answer that?
So they're basically saying the cost for $16,000 over 20 years, how much benefit do you get of using the swimming pool and the facilities versus the cost of the $16,000? Is it really worth $16,000 per household?
Okay, and that seems subjective to me. So that's why I have a difficult
Yeah,
time
it's-
answering it.
That's part of that. That's part of, Lance is answering a part of it.
Well, we can't pave our roads, though. Why?
Yeah.
I think that's when you were saying,
Please stand up.
you were saying that we were frustrated and the frustration was coming at you and the problem on the ballot. And I think a big part of that and the outcry and all of a sudden, oh, now we're interested in politics, right? It's because 17 years ago we were supposed to put Ashbury Park in. It's a tiny little neighborhood park. It's still not a park. My son was 1, now he's in college, just to tell you. And if you can't put a neighborhood park in, how are we gonna pay $1 million to maintain a rec center, which I would love? But let's face it, we can't afford it. We don't have the money for it. And if we can't pay for our roads and our children who are 16 trying to swerve around potholes driving, and I know you have kids too, then how are we gonna pay for that? And I think that was the emotion you got from people being belligerent to you, which is unacceptable. But I think that was my personal feeling too, is wait a minute, Brady Road took 20 years to put in, to fix Brady Road in front of my house.
It did.
And they surveyed it 5 times, did you know that? Maybe more.
It
They
took
paid
a
for a
long time to
survey.
get the money.
But why survey it 5 times? It's a lot of money to survey. Why survey if you're not gonna put it in? And I talked, and you're just new, but I talked to the former mayor about Ashbury Park, and you say you don't get involved. I've been talking about Ashbury Park for years, and and you say we listen, but the little things are not being fixed, so how are we gonna support this big thing? And I think that's part of the frustration.
I can understand that. Thank you very much for that question. So, first off, I want to make sure, I want to be completely clear that this money does not take away from any of the existing services. Whether we have a community center or not, it doesn't change whether we can fund roads or pave roads or not. The operating subsidy, I believe, is what you're referring to. We came up, it is roughly $873,000. I said roughly and then give you the exact amount. It is $873,000 in potential subsidy. We were already subsidizing a pool that was only open 10 weeks out of the year by $100,000. We expect a subsidy on aquatic centers. They lose money. The water costs a lot, electricity costs a lot, and you can't charge people the full cost in order to use those facilities. We are already providing some recreation programs that will then move over to the center, but honestly, those right now are fully cost recoverable. If you take a class at Camas Lodge, you're paying the cost of that class. We're not subsidizing those. That $873,000 though, I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware, included the full cost, the overhead costs of the city. So that includes our HR department, it includes our IT department, it includes a portion of the city administration time, everything that is not a direct cost, but an indirect cost, because I didn't want anyone to say that I was hiding those costs. Even though those recreation programs don't pay for them now, that is included in that $873,000. But here's the deal, we're not hiring new people. I'm not hiring more HR people. I'm not hiring more IT people in order to provide those services to the community center. So if the community center doesn't pass, that portion, that 18%, roughly $400,000 of that $873,000, is still being paid as just part of what you're already paying for the city. So it's very confusing and very difficult for me to explain, but that large section, that large piece that we're going to have to subsidize, we're actually already paying a piece of it. That leaves roughly $350,000 that is not already accounted for in the operating. And that is what we are going to have to find. And that is money that could go towards roads. That is money that could go towards a police or a firefighter. But I truly believe that if we increase the livability, if we bring the businesses in, that additional taxes, everything that we are able to do, we will be able to find that $350,000. I'm not concerned about that.
I agree with that, I'm absolutely agree with that.
Perfect.
Putting 1 million houses doesn't,
Right.
retail's 1,000 times your taxes.
Yes.
But we're not there yet, and that's the thing, is your part before the horse question is great, because we're not there yet if you can't put a park in.
It is, Ash Creek is, I don't know what's going on with that park. The first time that I heard about that park was when
It's a lot
Brady
different
Road
things.
went through, but
But
yes,
Brady
you're right.
Road took, I mean, how many
It
times
took
have
a
we
really
surveyed,
long
like, let's face it, things are not getting done. And that's what I think kind of prompted him to run, is like, we're saying, you guys are losing sight of the big picture of the city. You know, and we just took a survey, parks and trails are our number one thing. And
Yes.
just put this rec center in, you're taking away a park. It's like, you're not listening to, we do the surveys.
I think one of the frustrations I had, going back to the Crown Park pool as well, was that we didn't just even consider just replacing the pool, doing nothing but just replacing the pool. That was never an option that was ever provided. Correctly, it didn't lose money. We were able to actually run a profit for a certain period of time. And I understand that there is maintenance and expenses that go into there. And we're looking at $873,000 that, if I started a business right now with my wife and I'm losing $873,000, I gotta figure out another way to do that, you know, and it doesn't necessarily make the most sense. And I'm curious if the city council was aware of those numbers when they did that, yes, but were they aware of the operation costs that would go along with that?
They had a ballpark of the operating costs that did not include the indirect rates. So they had the $350,000 figure ahead of time. But let me go back to Crown Park Pool. There, we could have just replaced Crown Park Pool at a cost of 3.5 million or whatever. For a
Well, I mean, go through the numbers, but I don't know.
for a pool that is open 10 weeks out of the year.
I believe it was 14 weeks.
I don't know
It
which
was
year that
14
would have been.
It was 14,000 people that I think went through that pool on an annual basis, based on.
Really?
Yep.
I think, I believe the, I can't confirm that number, but the number that I hear is much closer.
Answering several questions that did come tonight. You're touching on that. So a specific question from Peg was, if you think we can afford a $70 million bond, why were citizens of Camas told we could not afford $2 million to replace the Crown Park pool? So I think that that's where this is going. I think a lot of people have been asking that same general question. And if we could just touch on that, and then we've got a couple people that would like to ask another question.
Sure. So the cost to replace the pool, that was part of a master plan. We did a master plan for Fallen Leaf. Sorry. We did a master plan for Fallen Leaf Lake, but we also did a master plan for
Crown Park.
Crown Park. And the costs that came, I have them right here so that I would not forget them. Option 1 had a leisure pool similar to what we have that was at Crown Park, but it also increased some other amenities, and that was $10.48 million. Not all of that was for the pool. That was a small piece of it. The other option that came up was $5.22 million, because there was a master plan, and that was the option that went to the public. It went to our Parks Commission. It was the option that the Parks Commission recommended to the City Council. But we went to a meeting and we heard from you that don't spend money on a water feature, we want a pool. So we're like, okay, so we have to get a pool. A pool does not work, even an indoor pool does not work at Crown Park. Crown Park Pool was built when there were 5,000 people. We have 25,000 people now, and we don't have the parking, the infrastructure in order to support that location. The Columbian constantly would advertise every summer. They would say, oh, the only outdoor swimming pool in Clark County, go, and they'd show a picture of Crown Park. And that's awesome. We get lots of people coming in, a lot of people congesting our neighborhood around Crown Park, a neighborhood that has no parking and where they are having to park on the street, and a lot of people that don't even live in Camas. So the decision was made. We heard, you want a pool. Okay, let's find places where we can have a pool. We have to subsidize a pool. Okay, how do we subsidize a pool? We have to subsidize a pool by having the other pieces that go with it, the community center piece, the things that we can charge more money for, quite frankly, that will pay for the cost of the pool. And if we're going to go out for a bond measure, which is only $37.2 million for the pool, which I know is a lot, there are other pieces that are with it. There are improvements to the site, there are improvements to the road, there are improvements to our fields. The fields are probably the biggest thing that I hear people talk about. And maybe I haven't heard you specifically say it, but I've heard it out in the community since 2011 when I started. There was a very linear process to get to where we were, and the public was invited the entire way. And part of the reason that we're looking for a pool is because we heard loud and clear at an open house meeting that don't spend your money on the water feature, get us the pool right now. And we couldn't do it at Crown Park, so we had to look elsewhere.
Just to jump in there, yeah, so the company that put that together was Greenworks out of Portland, and they're a landscaping company. So they put together 2 plans, very expensive. So the replacement pool was over $10 million, but the pool itself, I think, was about $2.1 million out of that. The rest was just landscape. And they brought in another company to price out the pool. We didn't bring anyone specifically just to tell us exactly how much it would be to do that pool. And I think, again, it was frustrating that we spent the $67,000 to get that, and then to find out that no matter what, even if we wanted the pool, there wasn't enough parking, so it wasn't an option to begin with. And again, I think that's just, I think we need to be careful of how we spend the money. We've spent a lot of money in surveys and pools, and we still haven't gotten any closer to it. And I think the fundamental issue is that we're not connecting with the people and understanding what is important to them and what kind of pool do they want. I agree, I want a pool as well. And I feel like a lot of people felt that way. we did not feel heard when we said, here's the type of pool we want and here's what we want to look at. Those options weren't provided to us, and I think that's a big miss.
Okay, so Dave will get you in a second. And ma'am, you were first. You want to ask a question? Can you stand up, please?
I heard that a private company offered the city to spend $2+ million to repair the pool, and they don't need a city investment. They are going to run it. They asked a 20-year lease from the city, and they are going to put things in and keep it running so citizens can use it. Why city refuse such good offer?
You want to answer that for me, Dave?
I was actually on that committee, and one of the people who thought it was a poor decision.
Come up here, Dave.
It was a poor decision to invest in that infrastructure. We discussed a new pool. A new pool really wasn't considered though, because of community center. I had some suggestions, ideas, but that's when it comes down to being difficult, or you heard. A new pool wasn't considered at Crown Park. It was detrimental to a community center. So I wanted to invest $2 million or $3 million in repairing the pool. It was a facility that was out of date, CDA compliant, many different problems with it. So it wouldn't be a good investment to repair that pool.
But the private company and try to invest and has to meet the building code, all the government regulation before they can open the business. Is that right?
Oh.
And so citizen can use it. City don't need to put any money into it, and you are not going to lose $100K each year, and that's a citizen tax. You don't need to waste $100K for the money and can use it. Why don't you do it?
Well, that same business that put that proposal together ran our pool for us 1 year because we were looking. We were like, what can we do to eliminate the subsidy of this pool? And so they ran the business for us, and that's when they came to us and said, yeah, you can't continue to run this pool. Lease us another piece of property. They wanted the southeast corner, I believe, of Crown Park, one of our most beloved parks in the city, the one that most of our events are held at. And we were supposed to lease it to them. They would run it, which was a good deal, but we would lose our park and for a private business. So just a year before, not even a year before, someone else wanted to lease or wanted to buy a piece of city park property for a private business. The community did not like it. Granted, there were a lot of other perception issues with that, but we were very sensitive to the fact that we would be giving up a piece of our city park to a private business to make a profit. And again, we don't get property taxes. So not only does that private business benefit from being able to lease the city park, but they don't have to pay property taxes on it because it's a tax exempt place. We would get 25 cents on the dollar in leasehold taxes. I can point to that directly to the city of Washougal not having a lot of property tax dollars because a lot of their district is part of the port, and the port is a public entity. They don't have to pay property taxes. All of that development that happens in Washougal, people probably think Washougal is rich. They're not, because it's all on property tax exempt land. That's what this private business would have gotten. Why is it fair for this private business to get it versus another private business to get it? Those are all the questions we would have had to answer. Crown Park was not the right place to build a pool. It wasn't necessarily because we wanted to do a community center. If we could support a pool without the community center components and subsidize it, we would certainly look into that. But that's not the reason why it was not put at Crown Park.
But I would just say that if a company can figure out how to make it profitable, we should be able to as well.
Right.
Well, they can make it profitable because they don't have to pay taxes on the land and they get to lease it at a great deal from the city.
Okay.
If the city run it, you don't need to pay taxes as well because it's a public facility, and plus you lost money every year. Got to pay for more tax into it, and so you don't collect any tax as well for the community center.
All right.
What's the differences?
The differences are the benefits, the fantastic benefits we get from a community center. We talk about the cost of what the community center is going to be, but there are other things that we can't afford. They're the non-tangible things. We can't afford to allow 1 in 5 high school students to feel like they need to commit suicide because there's no place for them to go. We need to bring that community together. We
Oh,
cannot have our seniors not have a place to go.
Okay. Right.
And I get all of these things. I get it. If we didn't give you the information, if it is not the information that you want, if it was not clear, if it was pushed down, if you don't like it, then vote no. It is okay to vote no. But it's not going to change that it's on the ballot right now.
Okay, Dave. Okay. I just want to give a couple more people a chance to do quick.
Yeah, it is. The stated cost of $873,000 is significantly low, because I don't know that the city has factored in $750,000 annually to replace Turk in an 8-year cycle. So either you're going to create an MPD with a new tax, or you significantly underestimated $750,000 additional in cost to replace the Turk in an 8-year cycle, which is very realistic.
We are going to put all of the money, all of the maintenance dollars, everything that we would have put. We had a discussion at our town hall meeting. She told me that I can't completely eliminate water because all of the money we currently spend maintaining the fields that we have, all of the pesticides that we currently put onto those fields, all of the water that we use, apparently we still have to do it when it's very, very hot. But all of those things that we would save, the labor, everything would go right back into that replacement for the fields. The fields themselves are Dorothy Fox Park renovation is $1 million. That's doing sports fields, so it wouldn't require $750,000 a year saved over 8 years in order to replace that. But there's only, $750,000 a year for 8 years is how much? 1.5 times 4, $6 million. And that's more than what it costs to do the project totally, so.
$6 million was the original cost.
Oh, it's exactly 6 million, yes.
That was the number.
Okay. We're down to the last 10 minutes. Thank you, everybody. There's a couple more topics people wanted to address. Keith Shaw, are you in the room? Would you like to ask your question? I can give you the wireless mic. Would you like to come up here?
Sure.
This looks like it's a question for Mr. McDonnell.
Well, actually, the question I was gonna ask is what is your, Professor McDonnell, what is your education? And the reason I wanna ask that, what I've learned mostly here tonight, because I knew nothing, I've been here for 3 years in Camas, and my whole career is in business, not government or administration. And what I've heard loud and clear tonight was we have lack of leadership. You're a great administrator, and your education is administration, not business administration, public administration. You don't look at least from what I'm gathering from next door and everything else, is in your comments tonight, we're totally naive about profitability or cost-benefit analysis, or anything to do with cost. And it's like people that seem to work for the government, having known people who worked for U of O med school when it was med school. They get a budget, and their whole goal is to spend it all, not to see how efficient we can become. And because these are people's money. Because if it was your 78, whatever, $1 billion or $1 million, we wouldn't care. But it's not. It's ours. And I think in a position of leadership, which a mayor is, a city council is not, they're there to advise and provide administrative support. That's fine. But as a leader, you should be much more cognizant, because people's complaints are about the financial aspects of it. You know, it's costing them, and you seem to be almost oblivious to, well, that's just the cost of doing business. So that's it.
I don't believe there was a question there, but I will address it.
He's just talking about your business education and how talk about allocating.
Yeah, I can talk about my
Let's talk
education.
about both of your, I think we know where Mayor Turk's background has been. Barry, you're
Yeah.
new, so
Yeah.
let's talk about where you've been.
I went to high school in St. Pius and went to Georgia State University, but really my education has been in life and working for the companies that I've worked with, and I've worked with some great companies and very diverse backgrounds and some great leaders. At Bloomingdale's, that's where I really, I think, understood leadership and how to lead people and how to have an opinion, understand what is important. I mean, my focus in business is to make these companies as profitable as possible. So I'm very conscious of that, and I'm very conscious of that I have to deliver results. If I don't deliver results, I don't have a job. So
What's your job?
loss prevention. So it's literally preventing losses. And I think that, and again, leading teams and inspiring teams and getting them motivated to get the results, I don't do anything by myself, but I do set the tone, I do set the example, and I do ensure that they have my support and that I know how to support them, that I've developed those relationships with them, I understand what motivates them, and I support them, and I have their back when it comes to how we operate.
And Shannon, your full-time job is at the City of Vancouver, correct?
Correct. I work for the City of Vancouver. I actually work in budgets. That is what I do. I make sure that projects that the City of Vancouver do are done on time and within budget. That is my primary focus. I have a lot of experience with budgets. I probably am naive on the community center. I see it as a benefit that exceeds the dollars and cents. I see the larger social picture of it. I understand that it is a large ask for everybody. I know that you don't take it lightly. It was a decision that was large enough that we wanted to put it onto the ballot for you. But as far as my leadership, this election is about so much more than just this bond. It is about whether you can manage the city, whether you know how to put a budget together. If you know how to get our streets paved when we need to, if you know how to get that water running through our pipes, that is what I know how to do. That is what I know how to do well. I may not have articulated it well, but I am very confident. And this mayor position, I haven't even been in this position a year, and we already are working on plans to fix. Does everyone remember a year ago when the firefighters, there were signs everywhere? We have plans in order to fix that. We took the steps to do that. This council, and under my leadership, this master plan is going forward. We are working on prioritizing the government services for the citizens. What are the most important? It hasn't been done in at least 20 years. I heard it was 20 years ago. But it hasn't been done in a while. I am initiating this. So yes, I am probably naive on the community center. To me, it is a matter of, we've heard over the years what people have said and giving it to them to make their choice because it's an important decision to make. But again, this election is about so much more than just that bond measure.
Okay, we have time for one more citizen question. I'm just trying to get some people that wrote the questions down ahead of time. There were 5 questions in the last 24 hours I've gotten that are all tied together. And Tammy Gray, are you in the room? Would you like to come up and answer the question?
I'll stand here.
Okay. Speak loudly.
My concern when I moved here with my husband is Camas is known for its trails. I'm an avid trail walker, and I'm disgusted by the amount of trails and property that's being taken away for development. And I want to know, and I heard you say that we have to get 30,000 more people in, and I'm freaking out about that because we're going to lose our small city feel. So I would like to see a curb on development. I don't like the way Camas is going. I'm very concerned. It's really sickening me how the pristine area is changing, and you guys got to nip it. You guys got to bring it in.
So I totally agree with that as well, and I think first off, it's trying to understand. Each time I ask questions, it's the growth management act. This is what we can do. This is what we can't do. I really want to understand as citizens what it is that we want to do and figure out how to do that. And I think that's the important part. And I think the center or not, but the environment that we're meeting, that's the true beauty, and that's to me what makes Camas so special.
Adding to that, to what Tammy said, Tanya Lance texted, how do we preserve what's left of our green space? And it's tied to, this question's tied to the same one.
I would say you get involved with the master planning north of the lake. If that is, and then identify what trade-offs you're willing to give. If that is the most important, to have green space north of the lake, in addition to the legacy lands that we put in place, then there's going to be a trade-off. That means south of the lake, we're going to have higher density. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. If that is what you want, let us know, and we can go. We don't have a dog in the fight as far as caring whether it's this or that. We want to know what you have to say, but know that we have parameters to our sandbox that we can play in.
Keep going.
You want to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep going. If people need to leave, go ahead and do that. We're close to 8 o'clock. We've gone through about 15 reader, viewer, citizen questions that I've gotten through the magazine. If you want, Karen, right? Would you like to answer the question up here?
Sure, and I mean, this is probably close to wrapping it up. I don't personally feel that you need to have government experience to be successful in government. I think aptitude and leadership is what we're looking for here. Not to be confrontational, but I think the citizens have felt that you lack strong leadership because you have strong players around you who are actually really running the show. So all humility forward. If you want us to elect you as a mayor, you must see something that you feel you need to change to be a stronger leader to meet the people's needs. On Barry's perspective, I would like to understand how you would make changes going forward to be the strong leader that the people need, not that the council needs.
I think this is a good opportunity to talk about the form of government we have. We're a strong mayor form of government. Washington just switched over to a weak mayor, right?
Correct. Or
So they're
council manager.
Council manager. Well, it's kind of a slang, but I'd like both of you to talk about that form of government and what that means and what your talents have to bring to that table.
And I know that last year we went to go to a weak mayor format. It was agreed upon that was the best at the time. We didn't have a debate about it, and then we changed, I think, opinions on that, and we haven't kind of gone forth with it. I think as the strong mayor in this situation, the city admin is a very important position and role, and I think that we need to support that person in giving feedback as how they're managing it and hold them accountable, I think, to certain expectations that kind of carry on, because it is such a fundamentally important job, whether it's a weak mayor or a strong mayor. And then I think when it comes to the city council and the relationship, I want to encourage people to speak up. I want people to speak out. I want to create that environment where people feel comfortable that we don't have to go along with everything. That it's healthy to kind of to have some conversations, some talks. Bringing the feedback that we're having from those board meetings and kind of representing maybe different ideas and opinions. But I think that's an environment that I've always worked in. That's an environment that in my companies it's encouraged to be disruptive. It's encouraged to ask questions, and that's what I want to ensure that I set the tone. And I think the other aspect of that is setting the tone for the people as well. That there's accountability. That if I'm pushing forward something, I will stand and let you know what I'm thinking, and if it needs to be adjusted, I'll adjust. I mean, I think one of the nice things about it is that I don't know a lot, so I can continuously adjust and fine tune my ideas. I'm not held on anything, and it's been working with the citizens and the people that have really been helping me understand what I don't know.
Shannon, do you want to address Karen's question?
Yes. So I understand that. I take your criticism.
But it's not
Constructively.
mine personally, but.
I
Being the
understand.
voice.
I will take that constructive criticism. You're absolutely right. There are things that I can learn. I've been the mayor for less than a year, and I know that there are things that I can do better, but I also am proud of the things that I've done up until this point. I work closely with the city council, and the city council represents all of you. There are 7 people that represent all of the people in the different wards. So we have advisory committees, we talk to citizens in different places. We are hearing the citizens. I have to work with the city council in order to get things done. So I will take that into consideration, that the council, maybe I shouldn't give so much deference to the council, but the reason that these things are coming forward are my own. It was, I started hearing that this 30-year conversation could come to an end. I pushed for a fire master plan, and I am pushing to make sure that we prioritize our services. Next year, I will push to get economic development in the appropriate place. If that is not North Shore, if we want to keep that green, then I will find another place. But it is very important that we have a set-aside amount of land to bring in these businesses and bring in our jobs. And I will continue to work towards that. I know what I'm working on. I will do a better job of communicating and making sure that you all know what I'm working on as well.
Thank you. Mr. McDonnell, would you like to add to that at all?
No.
Okay. All right. Wendy Hayden had a question. She left early. Okay. Her question was, why do we not have an open bid for significant contracts for professional services construction? I'm not sure if she was referring to the pool bond itself or to general.
We haven't gotten to a point where there would be an open bid for construction. If we received the money to go forward with the pool bond, we would absolutely go out for an open bid. The state process for proposals for consultants, was that the first part of it?
Yeah, significant contracts, professional services, construction, etc. Like I said, I don't know if she's referring to Proposition 2 for the Aquatic Center, or she's talking about just in general.
Okay. So professional services, architects, engineers, things like that, we are required, it is state law, that we go out, request for qualifications. We don't ask how much it's going to cost, we simply try to get the most qualified person to do the job that we're asking them to do. And then they tell us how much it is going to cost.
Is that typical
That's
of
state law.
municipalities?
Yes, every municipality follows that.
Okay. Lady, nice lady behind Keith. Then we'll get to Keith. Why don't you come up and ask your question? We can hear you better.
So it took me, either of you will have to deal with the GMA reality.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that cannot be, that 30,000 has to happen, that's per state, correct, right? So how would you show us your, the plan you're going to using North Shore? Do we have another, how would you proceed towards that number that the state is mandating? That's the thing of it, that we cannot actually ignore that. And then it's a matter of what are the choices to make to facilitate that. So I don't know how we circumvent that. We do have to account for that. I don't have the second plan. I have the first one. I've taken the survey. I hope what we said actually gets heard. Of course, that's a whole different thing. But ultimately, we do have to account for the increased and also affordable living too as part of the thing. We have to account for that, and we have to account for 30,000 that has nothing to do with anybody local. That's coming from the state, and then in so doing it, we can also attract businesses, etc., to make up for some of the losses too. Seems as though we all have to tackle that, but I don't know what the other plan is.
Yeah.
And how do we keep what we like?
And again, so when it comes to our planning community department,
Right.
they're the ones that put all this together, and this has been something that's been in the making for quite some time. And certainly when it comes to the GMA and the Growth Management Act, there is certain criteria that we have to adhere to, and it does tie our hands to a certain extent. I don't know what the options are though if we choose not to, and I'd be curious to find out what all the options are as far as before moving kind of forward. Yeah, I mean, again, I think that if we as a city say this is who we are and this is going to make sense from a reasonable standpoint, I think it's important to look at all the different options. It may not be an option at all, but then within the options, I think there are policies and rules and controls we can put in to ensure that we are protecting certain aspects of it. And again, when it comes to the designing and what that field looks like, I think it is important as well that we have a voice in that and try to understand it. The bottom line is, I'm not a planner. This is not an expertise that I have. And again, I've been watching the Washington State government has some great videos on planning videos and going through the Growth Management Act. And ultimately, we have to figure it out, though. I mean, we have to be on the same page, and I think the key part of that is going to be the communication part of it. So as I'm learning, I want to be able to share with the citizens as well, so that everyone understands what the issue is. Because I find that a lot of our citizens are having arguments or disagreements around what we want to do and what we can't do, but we don't have all the information that's there. And I want to help kind of bridge that as well as I learn it and understand it, and have an open dialogue. Open dialogue with the citizens and the planning department, so that we can get those questions answered and we can feel better about the direction that we're going. So I think clearing up the communication is a thing that I can help do, and then help ensure that we're going in the direction that the citizens want.
Okay. We are running out of time. We're running out of a little bit of juice here. We've got some budget constraints with our staffing. So let's go to ma'am. Would you like to answer your question? Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna stand right here because I can talk loud. I've been here since 1986. Came here as a 22-year-old. I'm getting old. This is not the town that I moved to. Okay, so I live about a quarter mile from the lake. I am beyond frustrated with the hillsides that are getting ripped to pieces. I walked at the park today. I can see homes, and it's like, you guys, my town's getting destroyed. So what I cannot, for the life of me, understand is, you guys want to grow the town, you want to put homes in. What about the infrastructure? I go over that little bridge every single day to get home. If the pool gets put right there, I mean, I'm paying 50% more property taxes since 2006. My statement's right there. I can see what I pay. I know what I'm paying now. So I'm paying for it financially. My livability in this town has diminished so much because it's...
Do you feel like you're getting priced out?
I'm getting priced out. I can't go home twice a day. I can't get out of my street. I live on 38. I'll say it, I don't care, come visit me, I live on Franklin. I can't leave, I have to plan my day. And it's like, it's getting crazy. So how in the world can you guys put in more homes without the infrastructure? At one of the open houses or the meetings we had at the lodge, I asked, nice guy, he said there are no plans to expand the bridge. There are really nothing there. He goes, not for a decade. And it's like, it's crazy. You want to bring people in? I don't believe in that, but that's, there's lots of us making those decisions. But put the roads in place so that we can get home. We can live our lives.
Gary and Shannon, that actually is another big question of many people have asked that question, is that are we growing too fast to and not dealing with the infrastructure properly?
Yes.
Yep. And that has to be our last question, and we'll go to closing statements.
Yes, and that's the concern when I look at this huge pool and all of the things that are going to be going along with it and all of the concerns. Yes, I think so.
So we are actually growing at a slower pace than we have in the past 2 decades prior to that. From 1990 to 1999, we added 5,100 residents. From 2000 to 2009, we added 6,300 residents. From 2010 until now, we have added 4,700 residents. So I know it feels like we are growing faster because there are more people in a smaller space, and you see it more. The bridge, you're right, there are no plans to take care of the bridge, and the reason why there are no plans to take care of that bridge is it is part of Everett, and Everett is a state route. We are not allowed to make any changes to a state route, with the exception of the roundabout. They allowed us to put in the roundabout, and they're funding a significant portion of it. But the master plan for the North Shore, getting that infrastructure in, making sure that we are prepared for the businesses that will come or the neighborhoods that will come, that is what that master plan is trying to do. And I hear you saying that, Ernie, I think you asked if you're getting priced out of your home. That is one of the unintended consequences of restricting growth. When you restrict growth, there are fewer houses, there's fewer residences that developers can build, and so then the prices go up a lot. I have actually had a meeting with the Clark County Association of Real Estate Agents probably 2 months ago. In our efforts to manage growth, we did not add any land into our sandbox. We did not want to sprawl any further past where we are in that area north of the lake. But I was admonished by that group of people because they said that you are supposed to be planning for a 20-year supply of available housing for your residents, for your 35,000 residents. You have a 7.5-year supply, that's it. And in effect, you are increasing the rates for everybody in Camas. The housing prices are going up because the stock is down. It's a difficult question to answer. The question back there about affordable housing versus growth. If you make things more affordable, you're building more because it's supply and demand. We can make changes to our code, to our zoning codes, to our density requirements, and we can build smaller houses. I think it's more difficult on Prim Hill because of the elevations and the restrictions with the wetlands. So we built, because you had to build on a slant, developers ended up building 3-story houses that were 3,500 square feet. We don't necessarily need to do that in all of our locations, but it just like keeping green space and then having to accept density someplace else, there are trade-offs. If we keep things affordable, we can't restrict growth, or we make things unaffordable. And we are trying to plan for the infrastructure.
Okay, but, so think about it, right? So you got Everett on one side, you got Crown Road on the other side. Those are the only 2 options for lots of us to get home. You can't do anything with Everett. You can't really do anything with Crown Road. Yet that whole hillside, Woodburn School, that whole area got developed. We're all trying to get home, and it's like, how is it responsible to keep developing those areas when you can't do anything about the roads and how we get home?
And at
It
what point
takes
does that become a
forever.
public safety issue?
Yeah, it takes forever
Because
to
if
get
there's a
home.
natural disaster, we got major bottlenecks. I mean, I have family who were greatly affected with the Northern California fire because the infrastructure was never built, but the community grew. So this has to be addressed. You can't grow the North Shore if you're asking us to go through a funnel in the emergency to exit. So
You are absolutely right. Those are those are things that will need to be addressed during the master plan.
Okay, we need to wrap this up. Time constraints here. So, Mayor Turk, you've got 1 minute for closing statement, and Barry, Mr. McDonnell, you've got 1 minute for your closing statement. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I love being your mayor. I've learned a lot. I will continue to learn, I am sure, but I want to continue being your mayor. And I'm listening to the things that you're saying. I will take them into consideration, and I will use them going forward. In 2011, when I was first elected to my position, I said in the debate that I want to be a part of this team. I want to be a part of this city. The reason I want to be a city councilor is because I believe that the city of Camas is great. It is a great place to be. We have one issue that we're disagreeing on. There are others that are also, but there's one main issue. But aside from that issue, people love Camas, and you love to be here. And I want to be part of that team that continues to move us forward.
Thank you. Mr. McDonnell?
Yes, thank you guys for putting this together, and thank you, Shannon. I think this was great to be able to do this, and I know you didn't have to, and I appreciate that as well. And I know I'm a last-minute candidate that is asking for a write-in vote. It hasn't even been 3 weeks yet, and I just want to let you know that I'm committed to this. This is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I believe in. I have the support of my wife, my kids, my friends, and I feel like, again, the community as well. And I know that I'm not doing this alone. It's something that I'm willing to sacrifice. I mean, again, it's going to require me working 7 days a week and giving up a lot. But again, I think there's no better way to do it than this. I mean, I think I would be honored to be, if you chose to put me in that position, I would give it everything that I have. I would focus on those 2 areas, making sure that we protect the land, making sure that we maintain the history of what Camas is, change the way that we communicate, and change that dialogue so that we feel better. And then be very honest and transparent as far as how I operate. And as I'm learning and as I'm growing, I want to be able to share that with you, and at the same time, continue to get the information from you, because that's the only way that I can do it. So, thank you.
Thank you to the council today for their support. Without their support, we couldn't have done this the way it's been done. So thank you for them. Thank you to the candidates, Turk, Barry, McDonnell. Let's give a round of applause for them. And then I want them to pose for a quick picture. Thank you, everybody.
I really just want to. And I know that you're very good.
Because that's why you picture on these guys. We're all like with it I just go in favor of which takes away money from it, because I look at it and say it's coming out of my wallet. You're going to take $50 a year and I vote against everyone. Go ahead, sir. Because money is money, right? It's not like hurting.
Yeah, I just want to still take care of like.
Oh, sorry.